Hey guys, welcome to another Linux tech tips and tricks video. In today's video, we're going to be talking about crontab. If you don't know what crontab is actually kind of more like a scheduling service that is built into pretty much every Linux box by default, where you can essentially schedule jobs. And by jobs, I mean it's most likely going to be like scripts that you'll run or something else that you would count as like a job that you would run essentially. And you can specify time, date, frequency that you want to run it as. So say for example, you want to run something every 5 minutes because you need data from the server every 5 minutes. That would essentially accomplish the thing. You could just use crontab and it will work as you want it. So we'll be showing you how to set up some cron tabs, where you set it up, and what you can kind of do with it. So this video is also sponsored by me, myself, and I. So if you enjoy the content and want to sponsor me, send me some free swag or hardware. My email is in the description below. So, okay, let's get started, guys. Okay, so first thing that we will do is actually log into one of our servers. So we'll just log into our CA server in this case. And type the password in right, because typing the password in wrong doesn't work, right? So first, to start off with, crontab is essentially a command that you can run. Actually, don't just type in crontab. I meant to just type in like, it's actually crontab help a thing? Yeah, crontab, invalid command. So crontab has a help. So there's a lot of ways you can use crontab, right? So the first way we'll talk about it is editing a user's crontab. So you can essentially specify each user can have their own crontab. In this case, we're going to use the root user, so essentially it can do whatever it wants. But say for example, you don't have root access, you can still do a crontab, but you can only run scripts that you have permission to run as. So in this case, to edit, we would do crontab -e, and you can see this file is just completely empty. There is absolutely nothing in here. So to start off with, crontab, you need to know how to do the scheduling. So actually, we will Google search. So crontab guru. This is one of my favorite sites to go to. It's the cron scheduling expression thing, where you can essentially practice what you want and see if it actually does what you want it to. So in this case, essentially at 4:05. And this is all AM, so you would have to do like military time. If you wanted to do like, 4 PM, it would be 16. So this would be 16 instead. But in this case, 4:05 at every day. So every day at 4:05, it would run this job. So say for example, you wanted something to run every 5 minutes. You would do star divided by 5. And at every 5th minute, and you would leave the hour so essentially if you have a wildcard, it means every hour or every day or every month. So every day of the week, on every month, on every day of every hour, at every 5th minute. If you just did start, it would be every minute, right? So you can do like every 20 minutes, every 20th minute, it would run, right? So you can use the divisor to kind of divide up the like minutes or hours. You can do this here too. So like every 20th, every minute past the 20th hour, right? So you can do it multiple different ways to do frequency for every. If you wanted to do a specific time, so like say I want to do it every day, and you want to do it at 1 a.m. every day. You would essentially have every day at 1 a.m. Now, say for example, you just wanted a specific day of every month to run it at 1 a.m. Then you would say, hey, I want it to run on the 5th of every day of every month. You can also do like hyphen and do -7. So every 5th to the 7th day. So you can also do specific multiple days in a row, or you can use a comma and specify like 5th, 6th, and 7th, or like the 5th, 6th, and 20th. So you can specify which days of the month. So there's a lot of things you can actually do. Just play around with it. Crontab.guru is a great website to kind of play around with, trying to figure out what you want and how you want it. But in this case, we will do every minute. And you could do, /1 for every minute too. It just explicitly implies this. But we'll do it so that you can read it a little bit better. So we will do every minute and paste that. So after you figured out what frequency schedule you want, you essentially can put in a script, put in a command, put in whatever you want. So in this case, we'll do like W, and then I'll put it to temp w.log, right? So by doing this, we can now do crontab -L to list the crontab. So you can see that we have at every minute, it will run W, which essentially W outputs the kind of like user load average, uptime, a few other things, and logins, right? So W will essentially do this, and then I do the greater than sign to output it to a log file. Otherwise, it won't output to anything, and you won't even know it really ran. So every minute, we should be able to tail this file, which it hasn't been a minute yet. Now I gotta wait a whole minute for it to actually show up. Other fun fact: if you tail with -F, even if the file doesn't exist, it will, once it exists and created, it will just start reading that file, which is a very easy way to, not need to wait for the file to appear. So now you can see that it outputted, it just ran, and it will run every minute, so on and so forth. The one thing to note is there are a lot of other commands that you can do with crontab, and the one that I would highly recommend you be very careful of, especially if you're trying to edit crontab in the middle of the night in its production system, never do crontab -R. R will remove the current user's crontab. So if we do a list, you can see that we have that. But if we do R, it will remove it. And if you don't have a backup, you essentially lose all your crontab. So be very careful between -R and -E for edit, because if you're using the QWERTY keyboard, they're right next to each other, and it's very easy to hit a typo right there. Okay, so now that you know how to do that, we can also make it so it runs a script instead of just runs the command. So say, for example, you have something more complicated, right? So we'll create a script directory, create script by test.sh, and it's not going to be more complicated, but say, for example, you did have a more complicated script that you couldn't just put in one line, essentially. But we're going to just do one line in this case. wscript.log. So you could obviously fill this all out. This can run whenever. So you would do that. We need to make sure it's executable, because if it's not executable, it won't work either. So we can see test.sh, that script, output it to this log, so we can see that. So we can also add it in crontab too. So we'll do star 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we can specify the path in this case. So root script at test.sh. So now you can see that it's specified as script instead of just the command. I highly recommend doing scripts instead of just a command, because if you need to edit it, you can just edit the script and crontab will just run the script. So that is how you do crontab stuff for a user crontab. There's also system crontabs so that you can run it and it will run as the system. Or the specified user in the system. The reason why you would use a user versus a system would be, say for example, like you have something that you know always needs to run, but you don't know if that user is always going to be there, right? I know root is always going to be there because that's just the default. But like if you had like a local user account and this is like a job, you wouldn't want to put crontab in your local user account. It doesn't make any sense, because when you quit, that cron is going to die. The user is going to be deleted. In a few places that you can do actually is etc crontab, and this is actually a file where you can put it in here, and this also will run cron, and you can specify which user to run it as. Now this file is also owned and only probably writable by root, so you can't actually probably edit it as your user, and you would have to be the root user, but this is the other place you could put a cron. And also in etc cron d, There's also like other files that are like hourly, daily, and depending on whatnot, you can have hourly or daily files. But it essentially is, if you wanted to separate your crons so that you don't just have one huge cron tab, you can create multiple smaller crons that are like, hey, these are my hourly jobs, these are my daily jobs, these are my monthly jobs, right? And it makes it a lot easier. And you can see in actually Etsy, there are directories for that. Grab cron, where they have, you know, the hourly, monthly, weekly type situation. So that makes it easier that you can just specify, you can separate it out instead of putting it all in one cron tab if you don't want to. So that pretty much covers all of cron. The last thing that I'll show you is how do you know if a cron actually ran, right? So in Vollog, there is a cron. There's a cron log in here, so we can tail cron in here, and you can see there are timestamps. So at, in this case, 110, it ran the cron for W whatnot. Now at 113, it saw it ran the test script. At 114, it ran the test script. If you got some errors or other things, it would also show up in here. But also it tells you when like a user did the list, did the delete, and this is the -r. Don't ever do that, guys. And you got, you know, edit, replace, and stuff like that. So there you go, guys. Now you can set up cron for all your jobs that you need to schedule for a daily, weekly, monthly, every few minutes or whatnot, whenever you want. So if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.